On the night I went into labor, my husband, Ethan, was at his secretary's birthday party, helping her cut the cake. The next day, I had the divorce papers drawn up and threw them in his face. "Chloe, are you insane? You want a divorce over something so trivial?" Ethan tore the papers to shreds. "Yes," I said coldly, "because of this trivial matter. I am determined to get this divorce." A sharp pain shot through my stomach, and a warm gush of fluid instantly soaked the hem of my nightgown. My water had broken. I leaned against the cold wall, my fingertips trembling as I reached for my phone on the nightstand. The name Ethan on the screen stung my eyes. When the call connected, the background was a cacophony of loud music and muffled laughter. "Ethan." My voice was torn and fragmented by the contractions. "My water broke. Come back quickly. Take me to the hospital." "Oh, is this Chloe?" A saccharine voice cut me off, dripping with undisguised triumph and sweetness. It was his secretary, Olivia. "Ethan's busy cutting my birthday cake right now. He can't get away." My heart sank. "Let me talk to him." I practically screamed, the throbbing pain in my abdomen intensifying. "Don't be in such a hurry, Chloe." Olivia's voice was light and airy, laced with a laugh. "The hospital isn't far. You can just grab a cab. It's my birthday today, and Ethan promised to spend it with me." The line went dead. The dial tone buzzed in my ear. Outside, a stark white flash of lightning split the thick darkness, followed by a deafening clap of thunder. The pain came in waves, each more intense than the last, as if 1,000 hands were tearing at me from the inside. Cold sweat soaked my hair, sticking it to my forehead. I gritted my teeth, mustering all my strength to push myself up, and, leaning on the wall, I shuffled towards the door, one step at a time. With every step, I felt a warm liquid trickling down my legs. Fear consumed me. Finally, I made it downstairs and stood by the road. The rain quickly soaked through my thin clothes, and my teeth chattered from the cold. My phone screen was blurred by the rain, and the "no available cars nearby" message on the ride-sharing app was like a blunt knife repeatedly slicing at my nerves. An empty taxi appeared. I practically threw myself at it, fumbling with the door and tumbling inside. "City Maternity Hospital. Hurry, hurry." My voice was a wreck. The driver floored it, the car speeding through the downpour. The windshield wipers swung frantically, the world outside a chaotic blur of water. Suddenly, the tires seemed to hit something, and the car skidded violently. The immense inertia threw me forward with brutal force. Bang! The world spun. The sound of a violent crash, of shattering glass, all mixed together, drowning out my last flicker of consciousness. Before darkness swallowed everything, all I felt was an uncontrollable gush of warmth from beneath me, quickly soaked up by the cold rain, stealing away the last bit of my body heat. The acrid smell of disinfectant filled my nostrils. My eyelids were as heavy as lead. I managed to pry them open a crack, and a stark white ceiling came into view. My body felt like it had been run over by a truck. Every bone screamed in protest, especially my abdomen, which felt hollow and ached with a suffocating, dull pain. "You're awake," a cold voice said from beside the bed. I turned my head with difficulty. Ethan stood there, his expensive suit jacket casually slung over his arm, his tie loosened, his hair a mess. There was no worry on his face, no concern, only a thick, impenetrable layer of exhaustion and impatience. "The baby." My voice was a horrifying rasp, my cracked lips barely able to form the words as I stared at him. He looked away, his tone as flat as if he were discussing something that had nothing to do with him. "Gone." He paused. Then his voice grew even colder. "And we couldn't save the uterus. It was removed." Removed. The word exploded in my mind like a thunderclap. The last, faint glimmer of hope was shattered. A massive wave of despair, as cold as ice, instantly submerged me. My baby was gone, and I had lost the chance to ever be a mother. And while all this was happening, where was he? He was cutting a birthday cake for another woman, taking drinks for her. Why? Tears streamed down my face as I sobbed. "Why didn't you answer my call? Why didn't you come, Chloe?" Ethan spun around, his brow furrowed, his eyes filled with suppressed anger and annoyance. "Can you stop being so unreasonable all the time? Don't I have work? Don't I have social obligations? It was Olivia's birthday yesterday. Important clients were there. Could I just leave?" And now you want a divorce just because I missed one of your calls. Can you be more understanding? Understanding. I felt like I had just heard the most absurd joke in the world. The tears flowed faster, but I couldn't help but laugh. A desolate, piercing sound. Ethan, my baby is dead, and I don't even have a uterus anymore. And you're telling me to be understanding. The door to the room was gently pushed open. Olivia walked in, carrying a large bouquet of vibrant red roses, their fragrance so strong it was almost cloying. She wore a new designer dress. Her makeup was flawless, and her healthy glow was blinding. She had the perfectly composed, triumphant smile of a victor. The florist's tag on the bouquet hadn't even been removed, and it bore the logo of the high-end flower shop Ethan frequented. Chloe, are you all right? Her voice was soft and gentle, laced with a false concern, but her eyes provocatively swept over my pale face and the hospital gown I was wearing. Ethan specifically asked me to pick out these flowers. He said they might cheer you up. Looking at the flowers bought with his money, an uncontrollable rage surged through me. The last thread of my sanity snapped. Get out, I screamed, and with all my strength, I swung my hand and slapped Ethan's cold, indifferent face. The sharp sound of the slap echoed through the room. Smack. My palm connected with his cheek, a searing pain shooting through my hand. The air froze. His head whipped to the side, and a clear handprint quickly appeared on his skin. Disbelief flashed in his eyes, quickly consumed by a raging fire. Chloe, are you insane? He snapped his head back, his eyes so fierce they looked like they could tear me apart. Smack. Without a moment's hesitation, another, even harder slap landed on my left cheek. The force was so great that my vision went black for a moment, and a sharp ringing filled my ears. My cheek swelled instantly, burning with pain. You are completely unreasonable. Ethan's voice was a guttural snarl, cold and sharp. He looked at me as if I were a pile of disgusting trash. Without a second glance, he reached out and pulled the frightened Olivia into his arms, his gesture both forceful and protective. Olivia, let's go. His voice, when he spoke to her, instantly softened into a deliberate, soothing tone. There's no point in talking to a madwoman. Olivia nestled against him like a delicate bird, nodding and casting a barely perceptible, triumphant glance at me. Ethan held her and strode out of the room without a backward glance. The door slammed shut with a loud bang, cutting off the outside world, and cutting off the last, fragile connection between us. All that was left was the sharp ringing in my ears and the burning pain in my cheek. I collapsed onto the bed, my body trembling uncontrollably from the violent emotions and the pain. Tears flowed silently, hot and searing, down my swollen cheek. My baby was gone. My right to be a mother was stripped away. And the man who had promised to protect me for a lifetime had, for another woman, shattered the last of my dignity and illusions. My heart was completely dead. With a trembling hand, I opened my phone, found a contact labeled Mr. Chen, lawyer, and dialed. The call connected quickly. Mr. Chen. My voice was hoarse but calm. Draw up a divorce agreement for me, immediately. A few days later, on the day of my discharge, I was packing my few belongings alone, my movements slow and stiff. The wound on my abdomen still ached, a constant reminder of the nightmare car crash and everything I had lost. My phone rang. It was Ethan. I stared at the name on the screen, a needle-like prick in my chest, and numbly answered. Chloe. His voice came through the receiver, deliberately steady, but unable to hide the impatience seeping through. Are you discharged? I'm waiting for you downstairs. He didn't even ask. How are you? Or does your wound still hurt? It was as if I were just a troublesome package he had to sign for. I managed a weak, humorless smile, but it only pulled at the fading bruise on my cheek, causing a sharp sting. My throat was dry, and I couldn't speak. I silently hung up, picked up my light bag, and shuffled towards the elevator. The numbers on the display ticked down. As I stepped out of the hospital building, the bright sunlight made me squint. In the distance, I saw Ethan's familiar black Bentley parked at the entrance. He stood by the car, his back to me, talking on the phone. The faint glimmer of hope that I hadn't even wanted to admit to myself sank at the sight of his back. I dragged my heavy feet towards him. Just as I was a few steps away, Olivia appeared from nowhere, running to his side. Her delicate brow was furrowed, one hand clutching her stomach, her voice soft and urgent, thick with a sob. Ethan, my stomach hurts. It really hurts. Did I eat something bad for lunch? Ethan immediately ended his call, his expression instantly tense. He grabbed the swaying Olivia, his voice filled with an unprecedented gentleness and anxiety. What's wrong? Olivia, where does it hurt? Don't be scared. We'll go see a doctor right away. He carefully supported her, even bending down slightly so she could lean on him more comfortably. He had completely forgotten about the wife who had just suffered a miscarriage and a hysterectomy. Standing right behind him, he just held her carefully and turned, walking quickly towards the emergency room. He didn't even look back at me, as if I were just a wisp of transparent air. I was frozen to the spot, the light bag in my hand suddenly feeling as heavy as lead. The hospital lobby was bustling with people, but the noise seemed to be on mute. The entire world was reduced to the two of them hurrying away. Him carefully protecting her, her weakly leaning on him. What a blindingly ironic picture. An icy chill shot up from the soles of my feet. So, it wasn't that he didn't know how to be gentle. It was just that he was so stingy with his gentleness that he wouldn't spare a single drop for me. I watched him disappear around the corner of the emergency room corridor, my nails digging into my palms, with legs that felt like they were filled with lead. I ended up calling a cab myself and went back to the place that was once called home. Standing in front of the familiar villa, the cold keypad of the lock reflected the streetlight. My fingers habitually pressed in the sequence I knew by heart. Our wedding anniversary. Beep, beep, beep. The jarring error sound blared. A red light flashing frantically. Wrong password. I was stunned, thinking I had made a mistake. I took a deep breath, fighting through the physical discomfort and the ache in my chest, and carefully keyed in the numbers again. Beep, beep, beep. The cold sound blared again, like a slap in the face. The password had been changed. As I stood there, frozen, a chill creeping up my spine, the lock clicked open. I don't know when Olivia had returned. She stood in the doorway, wearing a silk robe that was clearly mine. A lazy, well-practiced smile on her face, a steaming cup of coffee in her hand. Chloe, you're back. She leaned against the doorframe, her smile sweet, but her eyes filled with undisguised triumph and provocation. So sorry. Ethan was afraid I'd keep forgetting the password, so he changed it to my birthday. It's more convenient this way. You don't mind, do you? She stepped aside to let me see the entrance hall. A pair of Olivia's high heels were casually tossed on the floor, next to a pair of men's slippers. Ethan's. The air was filled with a strange, sweet perfume, completely overpowering the familiar scent of our home. Blood rushed to my head. I pushed past her, my eyes red, and stumbled into the living room. The sight before me was like a lightning strike. The sofa cushions had been replaced with gaudy, bright colors. The coffee table was cluttered with snack bags and fashion magazines. In the dining room, the elegant tablecloth I had carefully chosen was gone, replaced by a cheap, garish plastic one. And the most glaring thing was in the center of the dining table a few scattered pieces of white paper were being used as coasters for a coffee cup and a fruit bowl. They were my design sketches, the ones I had spent countless sleepless nights on. The embryonic form of an idea that could have shaken the jewelry world, now stained with brown coffee and sticky fruit juice, treated like trash. Who did this? I spun around, my voice distorted with rage, and glared at Olivia, who had followed me in. She blinked innocently and shrugged. Oh, I just used them to put my cup on yesterday. They looked like scrap paper anyway. Before she could finish, her eyes started to the door, and her expression immediately changed to one of grievance and fear. Ethan was back. He frowned at the tense atmosphere in the living room. His gaze swept over my pale face and the messy design sketches on the table, finally settling on Olivia's tearful face. Ethan. Olivia immediately scurried behind him like a frightened bird. His frown deepened. He looked at me, his tone laced with annoyed reproach. Chloe, what are you doing now? The moment you're back, you turn the house upside down. All my anger erupted in that moment. I pulled the divorce papers from my bag and slammed them onto the stained dining table with all my might. Sign it, I said coldly. Ethan, we're getting a divorce. A divorce. Ethan's eyes fell on the stark white document, his pupils constricting. Then, a wave of offended rage washed over his face. He strode to the table, snatched the papers, and, without a second glance, tore them in half with a violent rip. Rip. The sound of tearing paper echoed in the silent living room. Chloe, he panted, his chest heaving. Are you insane? Over this stupid stuff. Over a few pieces of paper. Over a changed password. You want a divorce. Did you hit your head? He pointed at the shredded paper on the floor, his fingertip trembling with agitation. The baby is gone. We can find another way. Olivia just used a few things in the house. Is it really necessary for you to act like a shrew and not let it go? Can't you be more mature? More considerate of my situation? Isn't this house chaotic enough already? Consider it. I looked at his distorted face, listened to his heart-wrenching words, and suddenly found it all absurdly comical. The spot on my cheek where he had hit me seemed to ache again. My heart was numb, filled only with an icy chill. Ethan, tell me, how should I be considerate? Should I be considerate of you spending another woman's birthday with her while I was on the verge of death? Should I be considerate of you turning my home into a nest? Or should I be considerate of you tearing up my dreams like they were trash? My gaze swept over the stained pieces of my designs on the floor, the trampled-on fruits of my labor and my dignity. Then I looked at the woman behind him, wearing my pajamas, looking at me with the eyes of a victor. This place, which had once held all my love and hope, was now filled with the nauseating stench of betrayal and filth. This house, from the inside out, disgusts me. My voice was calm. Without another glance at Ethan and the triumphant Olivia, I turned, straightened my back, and walked towards the stairs. One step at a time. Every step landed on the shredded papers of the agreement and my designs, and on my own shattered heart. Back in what was once my bedroom, which was also now unrecognizable, I emotionlessly found my suitcase. I packed only my documents, a few changes of clothes, and the USB drive I had hidden so well, containing the only remaining legacy of my mother, the design for a very special, uniquely marked antique necklace. As I dragged the suitcase back downstairs, Ethan was still standing in the living room, his face dark. Olivia was clinging to him like a delicate, harmless white lotus. Where are you going? Ethan's voice was tight with anger. I didn't answer and walked straight to the door. As my hand touched the cold doorknob, my phone vibrated in my pocket. I opened it to a new email notification. Sender: L. Z CEO. Subject: a sincere invitation for Ms. Lynn to reclaim her design throne. The body of the email was a single, powerful line. Lynn, the storm has passed. The throne is vacant. The world awaits your return. At your service. Always. Kevin. I pulled open the heavy villa door. Outside, the last rays of the setting sun flooded in, blindingly bright. Ethan, I said without turning back, my voice echoing clearly in the empty living room. Cold with a final ultimatum. My lawyer will contact you to sign. Next time, I will file a lawsuit directly. With that, I dragged my suitcase and walked out of that suffocating cage without a moment's hesitation. The door closed heavily behind me, shutting out everything inside, and shutting out my entire past. A few days later, in a quiet, solemn cemetery on the outskirts of the city, the sky was a pale, leaden gray, the air cool, with the scent of earth and grass. I stood alone in a simple black dress before a small, newly erected tombstone. There was no name on it, only a small date, the day my child was supposed to have been born. A bouquet of pure white daisies lay before it, swaying gently in the wind. There was no grand ceremony, no extra guests, just me, and the little angel in my heart who would never come into this world. Saying our final goodbye, baby. I knelt, my fingertips gently stroking the cold stone, my throat tight with a sob. Mommy is so sorry. I couldn't protect you. I'm so sorry. Tears streamed down my face, landing on the white petals of the daisies. Just as my grief was about to consume me, the jarring sound of high heels on the stone path approached, shattering the cemetery's tranquility. Ethan, is this it? Oh, why did Chloe pick such a remote spot? It was so hard to find. Olivia's deliberately coquettish voice pierced my ears. I looked up, and through my tear-blurred vision, I saw Ethan and Olivia walking towards me. Ethan's expression was dark, his brow furrowed with an offended gloom. Olivia clung to his arm, her face exquisitely made up, wearing a brightly colored dress that was completely out of place in this solemn setting. Chloe, Ethan strode forward, his voice tight with suppressed anger and accusation. The baby. Why didn't you tell me? I'm the father. What right do you have to hold some kind of farewell ceremony here on your own? Do you even have any respect for me? I slowly stood up, wiped the tears from my face, and stared directly at the gaudily dressed woman beside him. My gaze finally locked onto Olivia's neck. She was wearing a necklace, a platinum chain, with a rare white diamond as the main stone. It was my mother's last work, the pinnacle of her design philosophy. It was one of a kind, a priceless treasure to me. Its design was on my USB drive. This necklace, along with the original design, had been treasured by my father as a memento of my mother. He had solemnly given it to me before he passed away. How could it be on Olivia's neck? Who let you wear that? I snapped, my body trembling uncontrollably as I pointed at her neck. Olivia, startled, instinctively covered the necklace and shrank behind Ethan, her eyes innocent but with a hint of cunning. Oh, this. Ethan saw I didn't have any suitable jewelry for the banquet last night, so he let me pick one from your jewelry box. He said you have a lot of expensive jewelry, and this one looked quite ordinary, so you probably don't wear it often. It shouldn't be a problem. I allowed it. Ethan stepped forward, shielding Olivia, his brow furrowed, his tone filled with impatience. It's just a necklace. You have so much jewelry. What's the big deal about letting Olivia borrow one? Why are you making such a fuss? Chloe, why have you become so petty and shrewish? Just a necklace. A fuss. Petty and shrewish. Seeing him protect her. Hearing him casually trample on the only legacy my mother left me. The last of my sanity vanished. That was my mother's last gift to me. I screamed. All the pent-up pain, humiliation, and anger erupting like a volcano. I swung my hand and, with all my strength, slapped Olivia's hypocritical, triumphant face. Smack. The sharp sound of the slap was jarring in the quiet cemetery. Olivia staggered, screaming and clutching her face, her carefully styled hair coming undone. Chloe. Ethan's roar came almost simultaneously as he grabbed my wrist. His eyes were fierce and violent. His other hand rose high, swinging towards my face with the sound of the wind. I instinctively closed my eyes, bracing for the familiar pain and humiliation. But the expected slap never came. Enough. A commanding male voice suddenly intervened. Ethan's arm was caught by a large hand in a black leather glove, stopping it in midair. I opened my eyes in shock. A tall, imposing man in a well-tailored dark gray coat stood beside me. He wore sunglasses that hid most of his face, revealing only a chiseled jaw and tightly pressed lips. He exuded a suffocating aura of authority. Was he a bodyguard sent by Kevin? Or, Ethan was also stunned. He looked at the sudden intruder, his eyes flashing with a mix of surprise and uncertainty. He couldn't break free from the man's iron grip. The man threw Ethan's hand away with such force that he stumbled. He didn't look at Ethan, but turned slightly, shielding me in a protective stance. His gaze, hidden behind the sunglasses, seemed to sweep over Ethan and the terrified Olivia. His voice was devoid of warmth. "Ms. Lynn is having a private moment. I suggest you both leave immediately." "Who are you? What right do you have to interfere in our family matters?" Ethan roared, his face flushed with a mix of anger and humiliation. The man in sunglasses didn't answer, simply taking out a small communication device and saying in a low voice, "Stanson, clear the area." His tone was calm but held an unquestionable authority. Almost as soon as he spoke, several other burly figures in black suits appeared from the cemetery entrance, silently and quickly surrounding Ethan and Olivia. Their target was clear. Ethan's face changed. He clearly realized he was out of his league. He glared at me, his expression a complex mix of anger, suspicion, and the humiliation of having his authority challenged in public. He grabbed the still sobbing Olivia and, half dragging, half pulling her, was escorted away by the men in black, making a hasty and undignified exit. The crisp autumn wind swirled the fallen leaves. The man in sunglasses turned to me. He took off his glasses and gave a slight nod, his posture respectful yet distant. "Ms. Lynn, Mr. Kevin asked me to inform you that everything is ready." And his gaze fell on my pale, stunned face, pausing for a moment. "Some people are not worth dirtying your hands over." He handed me a pure black business card with a single silver stamped letter, K, and a phone number. If you need anything, please contact me anytime. With that, he put his sunglasses back on and, as silently as he had appeared, retreated into the shadows and disappeared. I clutched the cold card, my knuckles white, looking in the direction where Ethan and Olivia had disappeared, then at the white daisies swaying in the wind. A cold, bloody resolve replaced the sharp pain in my chest. Ethan, Olivia, this war you started, it's my turn to take the lead. A week later, in the CEO's office on the top floor of the Lu Corporation, the atmosphere was heavy. Ethan irritably loosened his tie and slammed a file onto the large mahogany desk with a dull thud. The floor-to-ceiling windows offered a spectacular view of the bustling city at night, but it couldn't penetrate the gloom in his eyes. Useless. All of you. He snarled at the cowering executives. This project was our biggest hope for the year. Why did Director Zhang suddenly change his mind? The letter of intent was just one step away from being signed. What did his secretary mean by Mr. Lu's private conduct is questionable, and it might tarnish the project's reputation. Who the hell is spreading these rumors? The marketing director wiped the sweat from his brow and timidly handed him a tablet. Mr. Lu, you should see this. It started circulating this afternoon among the company's senior management and some of our key partners. On the screen were two photos. The first, Olivia standing in front of the Lu family villa, keying in the password. The picture clearly captured the triumphant smile on her face and the numbers on the keypad, a combination related to her birthday. The second, Olivia taking a selfie in the restroom of a lavish banquet, wearing Chloe's necklace. Below the photos was a short, anonymous message. The password to Mr. Lu's home is his female assistant's birthday. The late Mrs. Lu's last gift to her daughter is now on the assistant's neck. The Lu family's principles are clear. A partnership. Think twice. Damn it. Ethan snatched the tablet, his eyes glued to the two photos, especially the glaring necklace on Olivia's neck. A vein throbbed on his temple. A wave of shame and anger washed over him. He looked up, his red eyes blazing. Who did this? Who took these pictures? Find out. I want to know the source immediately. The IT director answered with a shaky voice. Mr. Lu, the other party is very skilled. They used multiple anonymous proxies and encrypted IP addresses. It's impossible to trace. It looks like the work of a professional team. A professional team. The words stung him. He was instantly reminded of the imposing man in the cemetery. Chloe. It had to be her. How did she have this kind of power? A chill ran down his spine. He grabbed his car keys and stormed out of the office like a whirlwind, leaving a room full of stunned, silent executives. He sped back to the villa. He kicked open the door, the loud bang echoing through the empty living room. Olivia, get out here. His roar made the crystal chandelier tremble. Olivia, in her pajamas and a face mask, was coming down the stairs. She was startled by his ferocious appearance. Ethan, what are you? Before she could finish, he had rushed to her, grabbing her wrist with a force that made her cry out in pain. Tell me, did you change the password? And that necklace? Why did you take Chloe's mother's necklace? His eyes were bloodshot, as if he could devour her. The mask fell from her face, revealing a panicked expression. Speak. He shook her violently. I knew something was wrong at the cemetery. The photos are all over the place. Director Zhang's deal is off. And it's all because of you. Because of the stupid things you did. Seeing his rage-filled, almost insane face, Olivia's fear instantly turned to venom. She wrenched her hand free and shrieked. Yes, I changed the password. And I picked that necklace on purpose. So what? Didn't you allow it? Weren't you the one who was sick of her? Who wanted her gone? Now that there's trouble, it's all my fault. Her words were like a bucket of ice water poured over his anger, freezing him in place. Speechless. Yes, he had allowed it. He had allowed her advances, her probing, her slow encroachment on the space that once belonged to Chloe. He had enjoyed the secret thrill of being admired, the gentle attentiveness he never got from Chloe. Seeing the mix of shock, anger, and a flicker of regret in his eyes, Olivia felt a twisted sense of satisfaction and a reckless abandon. She sneered, took out her phone, and, after a few quick taps, held it up to his face. The screen showed a recording interface. Ethan, don't you dare try to pin all this on me. You want to get away clean. Dream on. Her voice was laced with a desperate viciousness. Listen, I have a recording of you, in your own voice, and screenshots of our chat where you agreed to me getting rid of her stupid design sketches. If you touch me, it'll let the whole world hear how Mr. Lou really talks about his wife who just lost her child. Ethan stared at the phone, at Olivia's contorted face, and a feeling he had never experienced before washed over him. For the first time, he clearly realized what a venomous, foolish madwoman he had gotten himself involved with. And what chilled him to the bone was Chloe. How did she get those photos? Who was standing behind her? He instinctively took out his phone, his fingers trembling as he found the number he had blocked countless times, but had secretly unblocked in the middle of the night, and dialed. Sorry, the number you have dialed is no longer in service. The cold, electronic voice was like a final verdict. 1 month later, the Imperial Capital International Conference Center, the main hall, which could accommodate thousands, was packed. The atmosphere was solemn and enthusiastic. A magnificent crystal chandelier cast a brilliant light, and the air was filled with the scent of high-end perfume and the unique energy of a gathering of elites. Ethan sat near the front, his expensive suit unable to hide the exhaustion and gloom in his eyes. Lately, his company's reputation had been tarnished by his personal conduct, leading to a string of failed deals. The stock price had plummeted, and the shareholders were grumbling. He was at his wit's end. Sitting there, listening to the grand pronouncements about the global economy, he only felt an overwhelming sense of irritation. The long-winded speeches finally ended. The host returned to the stage, his face alight with an unusual excitement and reverence. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now our great honor to invite a true legend to the stage. Her brand, LZ, has defined a new era of high jewelry, and she herself is the sole and absolute controlling shareholder of the LZ Jewelry Group. The host's voice, amplified by the state-of-the-art sound system, boomed through the hall, full of infectious enthusiasm. She is famously private, yet every appearance she makes creates a storm in the worlds of fashion and finance. Please join me in giving the warmest of welcomes to the internationally acclaimed master jewelry designer, the largest shareholder and actual controller of the LZ Jewelry Group MS. Lynn. A spotlight shot out, perfectly illuminating the entrance to the side of the stage. The hall fell silent, then erupted in thunderous applause. Ethan felt as if he had been struck by lightning. He was frozen in his seat, his eyes glued to the brightly lit entrance, so wide they felt like they would split. In the midst of the thunderous applause and the expectant hush, a figure gracefully walked onto the stage. She wore a floor-length, ice-blue couture gown that flowed like a glacier, accentuating her slender yet poised figure. Her face was devoid of its former gentleness and vulnerability, replaced by a cool, detached air of someone who looked down upon the world. It was Chloe, the woman he had called a shrew, a madwoman, petty, the woman whose designs he had torn to shreds, whom he had slapped for another woman, whom he had cast aside like a worn-out shoe. Chloe Lynn. Ethan's mind went blank. All sound disappeared, replaced by a sharp ringing in his ears. He was like a clay statue, drained of its soul, unable to breathe. A massive wave of shock and disbelief instantly submerged him. Lynn. Chloe, the mysterious and powerful MS. Lynn, who stood at the pinnacle of the global jewelry world, was the wife he had personally pushed away. In the spotlight, Chloe walked to the center of the stage, gave a slight nod, and took the microphone from the host. Her calm gaze swept over the sea of faces below, like a queen surveying her kingdom. When her eyes brushed past Ethan's deathly pale face, there wasn't even a flicker of recognition. I parted my red lips, and my cool, magnetic voice filled the hall. Thank you for the invitation. Regarding the future, Ethan could no longer hear what she was saying. His vision went black. The fragmented memories he had ignored now flooded his mind with a destructive force. The design sketches she had casually left on the table, which he had dismissed as scrap paper. The professional jargon she had occasionally mentioned, which he had impatiently cut off. The profound light that had sometimes flashed in her eyes, which he had mistaken for dullness. It turned out they weren't scrap paper, but blueprints that could have revolutionized the industry. It turned out it wasn't dullness, but the wisdom of someone looking down from the clouds. It turned out he had been holding a priceless treasure, and had foolishly treated it like an annoying piece of rubble. Boom. The self-righteous world he had built for himself completely collapsed in that moment. And the one who had pushed him into this abyss was none other than himself. The echoes of the summit were still fading in the vast hall as the crowd began to move. Ethan pushed through, desperate, towards the VIP exit. His suit was wrinkled, his tie askew. He didn't care. He had only one thought at her. Catch Chloe. No. Catch Lynn. Move. Move. He shoved people out of his way, earning a chorus of surprised and angry gasps. 2 security guards in black suits and earpieces stood like iron towers, blocking the VIP entrance. Sir, please stop. This is a restricted area. Their voices were cold, unyielding. Let me in. I'm looking for Ms. Lynn. I'm her husband. Ethan roared, panting, his eyes red. The guards were impassive, with a hint of disdain. Sorry. We have not been notified of any meeting with Ms. Lynn. Please leave. Chloe. Chloe. It's me. Ethan. He shouted shamelessly into the corridor, his voice hoarse with desperation. Come out. We need to talk. Chloe. I was walking out, flanked by a male and a female assistant. My steps were unhurried. I didn't even glance his way. Chloe. Ethan, as if clutching at a lifeline, broke free from the guards and rushed towards me, reaching for my arm. Chloe, listen to me. Before his hand could touch me, my male assistant moved like lightning, blocking his hand with precision. I finally stopped and turned slightly. My gaze fell on his face, a canvas of desperation, panic, and pleading. Mr. Liu. My voice was calm, devoid of emotion. Please, have some self-respect. Self-respect. The words seemed to stab him. He lunged forward, trying to break through my assistant's guard, his voice distorted with extreme pain and fear. Chloe, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was wrong. I was a bastard. I was blinded. I was a fool to trust that bitch Olivia. Our baby. And you. He choked. His words jumbled, and he clutched his head in agony, his body hunching over. I should have died. I ruined everything. Chloe, I'm begging you. Give me one more chance. Just one last chance. He begged, tears mixing with the cold sweat on his contorted face. The once proud and arrogant Mr. Liu was now as pathetic as a worm in the dust. I watched him break down, my face a mask of indifference, not even sparing him a shred of pity. A cold, sarcastic smile touched my lips. Your tears. I cut him off, my voice cold and deliberate, are cheaper than a crocodile's. With that, I turned and walked out the door without a second glance. Chloe, don't go. Please. Don't go. Ethan let out a desperate scream, trying to follow, but he was held back by the 2 guards, unable to move. He could only watch as the heavy door slowly closed behind me, shutting out the last faint glimmer of his hope. No. A piercing cry of despair echoed through the empty corridor. A torrential downpour slammed against the black Bentley as it sped down the road. Ethan gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white. He was soaked to the bone, his expensive suit clinging to his body, his hair plastered to his forehead, water dripping down his face. It was hard to tell if it was rain or cold sweat. His eyes were bloodshot. The headlights cut through the rain, illuminating a cold, ornate, black iron gate. Behind it was a modern mansion, brightly lit, but exuding an icy, unwelcoming air. He slammed on the brakes, the car skidding half a meter on the wet road before coming to a stop. He threw open the door without even turning off the engine and stumbled into the pouring rain, rushing to the imposing gate. Chloe, Chloe, open the door. Open the door. He pounded on the cold iron with all his might, the metallic thud mixing with the sound of the rain. A dull, desperate echo. Chloe, I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. He screamed, his voice torn and fragmented by the wind and rain. Please, give me a chance. I can't live without you. Please. Forgive me. Hit me. Curse me. Just please. Look at me. Look at me. His only answer was the roaring rain and the cold silence of the iron gate. Inside, I stood quietly by the floor-to-ceiling window. Outside, Ethan was a pathetic heap, kneeling at the gate, his cries filtered through the thick glass and the raging storm, were just a faint, distorted whimper. Miss, the rain is very heavy. Should I notify security? Mr. Chan, my butler, suddenly appeared. I shook my head, my gaze fixed on the figure outside. I turned away from the window, no longer looking at the struggling figure in the rain. I walked to the antique desk and picked up the neatly printed document that my lawyer had prepared. The divorce agreement. Mr. Chan. Yes, miss. I handed him the papers. Give this to him. I picked up the phone and dialed a number. The call was answered quickly. Mr. Chan, lawyer. My voice was as calm as if I were discussing a routine business matter. Please send the final version of the agreement to my email. Also, my gaze shifted back to the blurry figure outside, still futilely pounding on the gate. My eyes devoid of pity. Only a complete indifference. Notify security to clear the area. After hanging up, the storm outside seemed to rage even more fiercely, mixed with the amplified electronic voice from a distant loudspeaker. Warning. Private property. Please leave immediately. Repeat. Please leave immediately. I picked up my teacup and, without another glance at the man in the rain, walked towards the spiral staircase to the second floor, leaving the wind and rain, and the desperate cries, completely sealed off in the other world he had created for himself, never to see him again in this lifetime.